Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're opening the door to something that feels universal, but is actually incredibly complex. The whole world of sleep disorders.
Yeah, it's a big topic.
And we're not just talking about, having a bad night here and there. We're diving into the real conditions that mess with starting asleep, staying asleep, or just getting through a healthy sleep cycle.
Exactly. And our goal today is really to give you a kind of clinical framework, a roadmap, maybe, to tell these often confusing conditions apart.
Okay.
We'll cover everything from, strange activities during sleep to just feeling overwhelmingly sleepy during the day. Basically, if you want to quickly get a handle on why sleep goes wrong, this is for you.
Right. And the sources we looked at emphasize starting with a really focused history. Patients usually come in saying things like, I can't fall asleep, or I keep waking up. Maybe I wake up way too early. Pretty standard stuff initially.
But, and this is crucial, often the most specific clues don't come from the patient.
Because there's...
Precisely. The weird movements, the talking, the yelling that's often reported by a partner or family member. So getting that outside perspective is, well, indispensable sometimes.
Good point. Now, before we get into the weeds, what's the big clinical caution here? If someone has a sleep problem, it's not always a sleep disorder per se, right?
Absolutely right. That's probably the most important initial thought. Keep a wide differential diagnosis. You have to remember, sleep issues can easily be secondary to something else entirely.
Like what kinds of things?
Oh, like hyperthyroidism, maybe chronic pain, even heart failure can disrupt sleep patterns significantly.
Yeah.
You've got to rule out those underlying medical causes first before jumping to a primary sleep diagnosis.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's try to build that diagnostic flow, starting with maybe the most dramatic stuff. The first big question seems to be, is there abnormal talking or moving during sleep?
Yes. If the answer is yes, you're likely dealing with a parasomnia.
Right, parasomnias.
Yeah.
And these seem to split neatly into two big groups based on one key thing. Does the person remember dreaming in detail?
Exactly. That's the main dividing line. If they do have detailed recall of recurrent dreams, we're in the territory of REM-related parasomnias.
Okay, REM sleep. That's the dream stage, right? Late in the night cycle.
Correct. It's the last stage, typically. Characterized by dreams, rapid eye movements, and this is critical muscle atonia. That temporary paralysis that stops you from, physically acting out whatever your dream is about.
So if that paralysis fails, that's REM sleep behavior disorder, RBD.
That's RBD. The patient has these frequent, often very unpleasant dreams being attacked, chased, and because that atonia isn't working, they physically act it out.
Like literally.
Oh, yeah. Kicking, punching, shouting, flailing. It usually happens later in the night during the longer REM periods, and it can be genuinely dangerous, causing injury to themselves or their bed partner.
Wow. And there's a really significant connection here, isn't there? Something neurologically important.
Hugely important. This is high-yield stuff. If you see RBD, especially maybe in an older adult, it should immediately make you think about neurodegenerative disease.
Like Parkinson's.
Exactly like Parkinson's. You absolutely need to check for subtle signs, slow movement, rigidity, tremor. There's a very strong link between RBD and Parkinson's, and also related conditions like dementia with Lewy bodies or multiple system atrophy.
So diagnosing it involves actually seeing this.
Yes, the gold standard is video polysomnography, a sleep study, with video showing those complex movements happening during REM sleep without the expected muscle atonia.
Okay, so that's RBD. What about nightmare disorder? Still bad dreams, still REM-related. How is it different?
The key difference is the state upon waking. With nightmare disorder, they have these disturbing dreams, often about threats or harm, but when they wake up, they're immediately fully alert and aware of what happened.
Ah, okay. So no acting out, just the bad dream and the distress it causes.
Right. The main issue is the distress and the impact it has on their daytime functioning, because the nightmares are so frequent or upsetting. No complex motor stuff like in RBD.
Got it. So if dream recall is the dividing line, let's flip to the other side. What if there's abnormal activity, but no detailed recall of dreams?
Then we're talking about non-REM-related parasomnias. These aren't really about dreaming. They're more like disorders of arousal, glitches in waking up fully.
And they happen earlier in the night.
Typically, yes. Mostly in the first third of the night during the deeper stages of non-REM sleep. Often the person's eyes might even be open, but they're not really there. And these tend to be more common in younger people, kids, and adolescents.
Okay, like sleepwalking, somnambulism. What does that look like?
Well, the classic report is someone recurrently getting out of bed, walking around. Sometimes they might do more complex things, eat, go to the bathroom, even try to leave the house.
But they don't remember it?
Nope. Limited or no recall the next morning. They might seem awake, but they're unresponsive or confused if you try to interact with them. It's purely an arousal issue.
Okay. And then there are sleep terrors. That sounds intense.
It is. It involves sudden episodes of intense fear, often with screaming or crying out. It can look really dramatic.
How is that different from just a really bad nightmare then, if they don't remember the dream part?
The key is the state after the episode, or if they're woken during it. Someone having a sleep terror will be deeply confused and disoriented, very different from the immediate alertness after a nightmare.
Okay, confusion is the marker.
Right. And during the terror itself, you'd see signs of major autonomic arousal, heart racing, breathing fast, sweating, dilated pupils. It's like a panic attack, but happening out of deep sleep.
That's a huge difference. Okay, so we've covered the parasomnias, the abnormal activity stuff. What if there's none of that, but the person just struggled to actually start sleeping?
All right, so the question becomes trouble falling asleep. If yes, one common culprit to investigate is restless leg syndrome, or RLS.
RLS. What's the absolute giveaway symptom for that?
It's this really distinct, uncomfortable, sometimes creepy, crawly urge to move the legs, occasionally arms too. It happens mainly when they're resting, especially in the evening or at night.
And moving makes it better. Seems counterintuitive.
It does, but that's the hallmark. The urge gets better, at least temporarily, with movement like walking or stretching. And it's worth asking about history. RLS is often linked with things like iron deficiency, sometimes pregnancy, or kidney failure.
Interesting. And you mentioned RLS often connects to problems staying asleep too, Heather.
Yeah, because most people with RLS also have something called periodic limb movements during sleep, or PLMS.
Okay.
These are basically repetitive, small jerks or movements, usually of the legs, happening during sleep. The person isn't aware of them, but they cause these brief awakenings or microarousals, fragmenting sleep and leading to daytime tiredness.
Got it. So RLS urges prevent falling asleep. PLMS disrupts sleep later.
Okay. What about timing issues? Say, a teenager who just cannot fall asleep before 2 or 3 a.m., but then sleeps fine till noon if allowed.
Ah, that sounds very much like delayed sleep-wake phase disorder, DSWPD.
A mouthful.
It is, but it's a circadian rhythm problem. Their internal body clock is just shifted later compared to the typical societal schedule. So as they can follow their late schedule, sleep is okay.
Generally, yes. The sleep itself is often normal in quality and duration, but it's delayed. The problem arises when they have fixed schedules, like school or work they need to adhere to. That mismatch causes chronic sleep deprivation.
And this is just one type of circadian issue.
Right. It's good to know the others briefly. There's advanced sleep-wake phase, the opposite, wanting to sleep and wake up very early, more common in older adults. Then you have things driven by external schedules, like shift work disorder.
Makes sense.
Or, the temporary one we've probably all experienced, jet lag from crossing time zones, all problems of timing.
Okay. And that leaves the big one for difficulty falling or staying asleep.
Yeah.
Just plain chronic insomnia.
Yep, the most common sleep complaint overall.
How do we define that clinically?
Well, it's persistent difficulty with one or more of these. Falling asleep, staying asleep through the night, or waking up too early and not being able to get back to sleep. And this happens despite having adequate opportunity for sleep.
The key being persistent and despite opportunity.
Exactly. And critically, it has to cause significant daytime problems. Things like fatigue, mood disturbances, trouble concentrating or remembering things. That functional impairment is part of the diagnosis. It really impacts work, social life, everything.
Right. Okay, so we've covered abnormal activity and problems initiating sleep. What's our last major category?
This is where we put patients who don't have the weird movements, don't necessarily struggle to start sleeping, but have other major issues, usually severe daytime sleepiness or maybe breathing problems during sleep.
Okay, severe daytime sleepiness.
Yeah.
That makes me think of narcolepsy.
That's the classic example. The defining symptom is this overwhelming urge to sleep during the day, leading to suddenly falling asleep, sometimes in really inappropriate situations during meetings, while eating, even driving.
Scary. But there's a very specific feature in type 1 narcolepsy, right? Cataplexy.
Yes, cataplexy. This is really the hallmark. It's a sudden, brief loss of muscle tone, weakness, often triggered by strong emotions.
Like any strong emotion.
Most commonly positive ones, actually. Laughter is the classic trigger. But surprise or anger can do it too. The person stays conscious, but might slump or collapse for a few seconds or minutes.
Wow. Are there other clues in the history for narcolepsy?
Yes. Patients often report vivid, sometimes bizarre dreamlike experiences just as they're falling asleep. Those are hypnagogic hallucinations, or right upon waking up, which are hypnopompic.
Okay.
And another common one is sleep paralysis, that unsettling feeling of being awake but totally unable to move, usually when falling asleep or waking up.
So how do you confirm narcolepsy? The exam is normal between episodes, presumably.
Usually, yes, though during cataplexy, you'd see the loss of tone and reflexes. The diagnosis really relies on sleep testing, specifically the multiple sleep latency test, or MSLT.
What does that show?
It shows they fall asleep extremely quickly during daytime naps, typically in under 8 minutes, and also that they go into REM sleep very rapidly during those naps. That's called sleep onset REM periods. For type 1, you'd also find very low levels of a brain chemical called hypocretin 1 in their spinal fluid.
Okay, complex diagnosis. Now, moving to the last big player, often linked to daytime sleepiness and those partner complaints, sleep apnea.
Right. Very common.
What's the typical story we hear?
Often it's the partner reporting really loud, persistent snoring or noticing actual pauses in breathing during sleep. The patient themselves might report waking up choking or gasping or just feeling incredibly tired during the day despite spending enough hours in bed.
And are there associated health conditions or physical signs we should look for?
Definitely. There's often a history of high blood pressure, maybe atrial fibrillation, sometimes heart failure, or even stroke. On exam, things like a large neck circumference, obesity, especially central, or enlarged tonsils, a big tongue or uvula in the back of the throat can be clues.
But snoring alone isn't enough for a diagnosis, right?
Absolutely not. Snoring is common, apnea is a medical condition. You need confirmation with polysomnography, the overnight sleep study.
And what's the number you're looking for there?
We look at the apnea-hypopnea index, the AHI. That measures the number of apneas, complete breathing cessation, and hypopneas, partial reduction in airflow, per hour of sleep. A diagnosis generally requires an AHI of 5 or more.
5 episodes an hour. Okay. And quickly, there are two main types.
Yes. Obstructive sleep apnea, OSA, is the vast majority of cases. That's where the airway physically collapses or gets blocked during sleep.
Makes sense. And the other?
Central sleep apnea, CSA, that's less common. It's not a blockage problem. It's a problem with the brain's respiratory control center not sending the signal to breathe, often related to other medical issues like heart failure, stroke, or sometimes certain medications.
What a journey through these disorders. We really covered a lot of ground, from the acting out disorders like RBD, noting the huge difference between REM recall and non-REM confusion.
Yeah, and then navigating through the challenges of just getting to sleep, like RLS or circadian issues like delayed sleep phase.
To the pervasive problem of chronic insomnia, and finally hitting those conditions causing severe daytime sleepiness or breathing issues, like narcolepsy with its unique cataplexy trigger.
And sleep apnea, which needs that formal AHI confirmation.
It really shows how a seemingly simple complaint like, "I'm sleeping poorly," can branch out into so many distinct possibilities.
Absolutely. Whether it's behavioral, neurological, circadian, or physiological like breathing, each has its own specific features and diagnostic path. It boils down to careful history taking, including from partners and often specific testing.
It really makes you think, especially about that RBD connection. If we know RBD can be such an early sign of neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, well, how might diagnosing these sleep disorders earlier, more accurately, maybe serve as a kind of advanced warning system for other major health conditions down the road?
That's a fascinating thought. The potential for sleep medicine as a window into broader neurological health is definitely something researchers are actively exploring.
Something for all of us to consider. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.